Fraud Swamy. In olden times, there lived three brothers named Vasu, Basu and Masu in the city of Varanasi. The two elder brothers earned their livelihood with their hard work and honesty, whereas the third brother, Masu, never tried to shoulder the responsibilities of the family. Masu had made a group of companions who were lazy and worthless as he himself was. Despite the fact that he was a strong youth and could help his brothers in earning their livelihood, he wasted his time roaming uselessly from one friend to another. The elder brothers' heart ached when they witnessed the waywardness of Masu. Many a times they tried to make him wise, but all went in vain. The words of wisdom had become a redundant, routine thing. It had hardly any effect on the hopeless youth, Masu. Finally, unable to bear the worthlessness and wrong ways of Masu, the two elder brothers kicked him out of the house. Masu was now homeless. He approached his friends for help. Initially, they welcomed him and helped him with his requirements. But very soon, they began distancing him, for he was being a burden to them. Gradually, he remained alone, bereft of any friend. Once it so happened that he could not get anything to eat for 2 days. He had no place to go. All the time, he wandered from one place to another. Since he was not used to hard work, he didn't make any effort in that direction too. On the third day, he was sitting under a shady tree. He was hungry and exhausted. His eyes were closed. Suddenly, a voice rang near him. "Have prasadam, sir." Masu opened his eyes. A man was standing in front of him. The man offered him sweets. Masu at once extended his hand and accepted them. The man went away. Then he realized that he was on the steps of a temple. After making the offerings to God, the devotees were distributing food and prasad to the poor who were sitting in the premises. That day, Masu could get food and filled his stomach. Indolent Masu found a way to get food every day. He sat there idle and get food without moving his limbs. Eventually, it became his routine. Sitting on the steps of the temple every day, he used to see the devotees coming and making the offerings to the idol. They used to offer sweets and money. Sometimes when a rich devotee visited the temple, he would offer silver or gold coins or some ornaments. Every day in the morning, the priest of the temple would collect the sweets, money, and other offered riches and carry those home. Witnessing it, Masu always thought, how lucky the priest is. He doesn't have to do anything other than blessing the devotees, and in return, he gets so much wealth. Justifying the reputation he holds, he had a tendency to bank upon dishonest ways. Inspired by the priest, he thought of a wonderful plan to lead a luxurious life. He had learned from his experience that devotees were ready to do anything for saints and fakirs whom they considered the messengers of God. So to pretend as one of them, he arranged for false hair, a moustache, and a beard as of a saint. After changing his attire like a hermit, Masu sat opposite the temple under a shady tree with closed eyes. He pretended to practice meditation. The devotees passing that way noticed him. However, they didn't approach him in the beginning as they didn't know about him. He continued posing as a meditating saint for the next few days. Slowly and slowly, the devotees became familiar with him. Whenever they saw him, he closed his eyes, pretending in meditation. The gullible devotees began considering him as a person of high spiritual power. Sometimes a few devotees came to him and offered sweets and presents. Masu had accomplished his wish with his untrue ways. He never touched those in the presence of the devotees. He always showed his unwillingness to accept the offerings. He blessed the devotees in a saintly way and displayed his reluctance to accept any worldly pleasure. The more he showed his disinclination towards money and material, the more Masu was considered a true herald of Almighty. Soon he had a large number of people as his devotees. Many among them were rich merchants. To please their guru, they built a sprawling ashram in the outskirts and donated it to Swami Satyanand. It was the new name of Masu with which he had introduced himself to his followers. The ashram was enriched with all the luxuries. Now Swami Satyanand alias Masu would wear a silk robe, have delicious meals and relax on a soft bed. To manage his world of improbity, the ashram, Masu had assembled a few untruthful and doubtful character youths under him. The unscrupulous youths posed as his disciples. One day, a rich merchant visited the ashram with his wife and his young, beautiful daughter. Masu was so charmed by the beauty of the young maiden that he made a plan to get the young girl. After blessing the merchant and his family, he asked the merchant to visit the ashram alone the next day. The next day, when the merchant came, Masu said, "Oh merchant, yesterday when you came, I read your fortune. There is bad news for you." The anxious merchant asked at once, "What bad news, Swami?" "Your whole business is on the verge of destruction. Your ship, which is on the way to business, will sink soon. There are more misfortunes waiting for you, my son," said Swami Satyanand. The poor merchant was frightened and badly perturbed to hear it. He begged, "Swamiji, do something to save me and my family from this coming misfortune." Swami Satyanand alias Masu said in his grave voice, "O God-fearing devotee, I have called you here to show the way out of this problem. For this you must get rid of your young daughter." Shocked to hear this, the merchant exclaimed, "What do you mean, Swami?" Masu said, "Son, you must send your daughter away from you and your family forever." The merchant asked, "But how can I do so? After all, she is my daughter and I love her dearly." Masu said, "Don't worry, my son. Disowning your daughter will not harm her. Once she is away from you, a bright future waiting for her. You must do as I tell you." Masu then told the merchant to place the girl in a big hollow box and flood it in the river. He told the merchant to place a small glass lamp above the box before leaving the box in the water. The merchant believed the words of the Fraud Swamy blindly, went home and told everything to his wife. The merchant persuaded his wife by assuring her that their act will not harm their daughter. That night, the merchant's wife mixed sleeping drug in her daughter's food. Soon after eating her supper, the daughter fell fast asleep. The merchant and his wife then placed her inside the box and closed the box with a lid. They carried it to the river and floated the box after putting a lamp above it. The couple then returned home. After a few hours, the disciples of Fraud Swamy came searching for the wooden box with the lamp. After a little effort, they could trace the box. They happily lifted it and carried it to the Swamiji's place. Masu was delighted to see the box. His lure to get the girl was finally accomplished. He asked his disciples to place the box inside his chamber. The boys obeyed his command. Before going inside, Masu sent all his disciples away. He then went inside his room and closed the door. His happiness knew no bounds. He removed the lid hurriedly, a black hairy hand with long sharp nails rose and swiftly scratched the face of the fraud Swamiji. The Swamiji was horrified with the sudden attack. The next moment, a huge gorilla jumped out of the box. The angry creature held him and lifted him up much above the ground. He then threw the Swamiji, screamed with severe pain. But the gorilla did not spare him. He picked him up again and repeated the action. The Swamiji opened the door to escape, but the gorilla caught hold of him and injured him badly with his claws. When the Swamiji became unconscious, the gorilla left him lying there and fled from the ashram. The fraud Swamiji had falsely predicted about the girl just to lure the girl's father, but by the grace of good fortune of the girl, it actually became true. When the box carrying the girl was drifting in the river, handsome prince was returning after hunting a horrifying gorilla. The prince saw the drifting box and just out of curiosity, he removed the lid. He was happily surprised to find a beautiful girl sleeping inside. So was the charm on her face that the prince at once fell in love with her. The prince brought her out of the box and laid her on his boat. When the girl regained her consciousness, she was greatly surprised to find herself in a boat with a stranger. The prince introduced himself to the girl and proposed to her for marriage. The girl was overjoyed to find a handsome prince as her life partner. She told the prince that she was the daughter of a merchant. The prince then decided to visit the girl's house to get the blessings of her parents for the marriage. But before moving ahead, he placed the wild gorilla, which he was bringing in his boat, in the box and closed the lid. The prince also placed the burning lamp as it was placed earlier. So when the disciples of the fake Swamiji came to pick up the box, it was a gorilla who was waiting to welcome Masu alias Swamiji. After floating the box, the prince and the merchant's daughter headed towards the merchant's house. When they reached there, the merchant couple were extremely happy to find their daughter with a prince. They thought that the Swamiji's prediction had indeed come true. They happily married their daughter to the prince. The merchant's daughter thereafter lived happily as a princess with her loving husband. If you want to be fluent in English, listening to audio stories is a good idea. Please subscribe to this channel for more stories, simple grammar related videos, and for so many things which will help you to achieve fluency and accuracy in English language.